Hello, everybody. Hello, it's Matthew Street. Welcome to my channel. As always, I truly appreciate you being here. And folks, who remembers way back in 1996? Well, let's go back further. 1995, when the Anthology first came out with the 3-volume set, the 3-part series on ABC, or was it 2 parts? I don't remember. And we got the beautiful film and interviews, and then we got the 2 brand new Beatles songs, Free as a Bird, which came out on volume 1 of this, Real Love, which came out on volume 2 of this. And then we got no, we didn't get a brand new Beatles song, which came out on part 3 of this, Anthology 3. And that was always a little bit of a disappointment to me, folks, because I love the Anthology, everything about it. I can't even believe it's almost 30 years old, coming up in a couple of years. But I was a little bit bummed when the Beatles, being at the time Paul, George, and Ringo, didn't make that little extra push to complete the icing on the cake, to put the final of the 3 cherries on top of the Anthology and give us a final new song, Beatles song for Anthology Volume 3. They didn't do it, and that's fine because it was a wonderful series and release anyway. However, folks, there's always been talk over the years about a 3rd song that they were working on. And you heard talk about George didn't like this about it. Paul was trying to do that with it. They couldn't quite get John's voice right. This part wasn't right. They tried to add backing to it. And there's been stuff online. Some of them have been Frankenstein versions. Some of them have been totally fake versions of the Beatles creating this song called Now and Then, a John Lennon song from the late 70s, approximately 1978. John did the demo. And supposedly, the Beatles were working on it and got to a certain point and they just threw it away. And we saw Paul in an interview several years ago, I forget what special it was on, where he said, I may nick that song someday and finish it up. You never know. Something like that, being kind of coy. But, we've never heard too much about it since. Now, I'm not here to say that Now and Then is coming for sure, 100%. But, folks, I'm here because one of my viewers, the real Aunt Mimi, thank you, Aunt Mimi. Love you, lady. All right. Well, Aunt Mimi, the real Aunt Mimi, came over and gave me a heads up early this morning about a brand new Beatles song coming by the end of this year, 2023. Can you believe it? Folks, Paul apparently, and I'm just going to paraphrase here from what Aunt Mimi told me to go look for and everything and the information I could get. Paul was doing an interview recently with the BBC Radio 4. I think it's called like their version of the Today Show like we have on TV here in America. And supposedly he's saying things to them like during this interview like, well, there is a last Beatles song coming and we just finished it up. First, I'd like to know who the we are, but, we just finished it up and it's coming later this year. Now, Paul didn't give a name, but obviously the big speculation is that finally, maybe Paul and Ringo, and with the work George did before he passed away and with John's demo tape, that Paul and Ringo have finally come together and finished up Now and Then, that song by John from the late 70s that was almost going to be part of the Anthology, and that they've finished it up and that it's coming later this year as a standalone release, we don't know, or part of something bigger, a more widespread event. We'll have to see. But at the time, as I said, they gave up on Now and Then during the Anthology, and the audio, as I said, it was a little sketchy, but kind of topical because I just did a video about this. If you missed it, please go back a couple. I just talked about my concerns and my worries about artificial intelligence and the Beatles. Please go back and check out that video. Very topical that I just did a complete video about it where I talked about my concerns because they talked to Paul about artificial intelligence a little bit. And I don't really consider this to be artificial intelligence when you take a John song, and I talked about it in my video about Free as a Bird, Real Love, and what they did with John and what Natalie Cole did earlier with her father in the early 90s with Nat King Cole. That's not really like AI that I'm concerned with. The AI I was talking about is when they try to manipulate things like have John singing a Paul song or Paul singing a John song or the Beatles doing a song they never possibly could have done, like the Macarena or something like that. I was just showing my concerns about that. And Paul did talk about it a little bit. And it sounds like Paul's kind of negative on that kind of stuff with the manipulation and putting out fake or not real releases of different people singing different songs that they never would have sung in their life. But he also did mention that AI has good and bad. Okay, there can be good aspects, there are bad aspects, that maybe there could be some new exciting possibilities using AI, some good things going forward. And I think absolutely, and what people have mentioned, and it was alluded to a little bit in this interview, is like the stuff Peter Jackson did with the Get Back film, where he was able to isolate different sounds using AI so we could get more dialogue or more guitar or hear the drums better. Peter Jackson has that AI, artificial intelligence technology, to do that. And so that quite possibly they were able to use the AI technology on Now and Then, or maybe another song. We don't know for sure it's Now and Then, but let's assume it's Now and Then. They were able to maybe make a better presentation with the new current technology. Let's face it, when they were working on Anthology, you're talking about almost 30 years ago. And here we are today with this new AI technology, especially what Peter used in the Get Back film, that maybe have been put to good use with this new Beatles song, this final last Beatles song that's supposedly coming the end of this year. So Paul was telling the interviewer things like, we had John's voice and we were able to do better separation with AI and blah, 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 as I've just said. So maybe that is a good thing. Maybe they're able to make a better presentation, a better release for all of us. So they're making the Beatles' last record. All right. They've isolated John's voice. It's going to be coming later this year. And I have a strong suspicion it is Now and Then. I also have a strong suspicion that we're going to be getting some announcement within the next 6 months or so about that next Peter Jackson Beatles project. Something tells me that that's going to be coming. We'll get some notifications about that before the end of the year. And I just think that, although I mentioned in my video how AI is very scary and I was very worried about it, I have to admit, if used properly and in the right fashion, it can be a very exciting thing. There are so many great future possibilities with AI and music if used correctly. And I think in this instance, with a new Beatles song using John's old demo and maybe having better separation, better clarity, and then adding Paul, George, and Ringo's instrumentation from the 90s to it, wow, it could be a really fascinating and outstanding release. So let's look forward to that. So folks, we may not have gotten it back then when Anthology 3 came out. Anthology 1, Free as a Bird. Anthology 2, Real Love. Nothing for Anthology 3, but I love the Anthology. But perhaps we are getting that final song, Now and Then, coming later this year. The last Beatles song, according to Paul McCartney. So folks, thanks for being here. I just want to get this news out to you. Keep your ears to the ground. Keep your eyes to the sky. Keep looking and listening. There should be more news coming about this exciting release. Thank you again, folks, for being here. I want to get this out to you, and I appreciate you watching. Bye-bye.